Hello, welcome to the Spooky Favorites blog hop, and welcome to Carrie Lee Creations. If you have never been to my blog site, I hope that you will have fun looking back at some of my prior videos. There's lots of different types, and just I hope you have fun. So, okay, let's quickly get right into our spooky favorite and switch the camera view and take a look at our project. All right, here is my spooky favorite card, and I made this card for my granddaughters this year. So the cute little bears here dressed up for Halloween are my little granddaughters, and that's why I went with shades of pink to be my spooky card. And so, you know, they're scary and they're spooky. So to me, spooky is kind of fun and cute. So that is the direction that I went. So let's look at the products that I used for today's project. One of my main was the pumpkin dies here. And let's see, Build a Pumpkin Patch is the name of this one. And I used all three of the pumpkins from this set. I also used our inverted scalloped dies for this project. I used this straight grass, and the name of this one is called Grass and Cloud Edger dies, which these are a must, and every craft room needs a set of these. I used the brand new, let's see, this one's called the Barely Halloween, and of course I chose the little pumpkin here, and then the one with the little pumpkin trick-or-treat bag. I used our Spirited Sentiments, and I'm going to use Trick or Treat, and I'm going to use Too Cute to Spook. And then for my paper back, I used the 6x6 set paper called Licorice, and I used this black piece with the pink polka dots. So let's get right into it. With the pumpkins, I chose 3 colors of pink cardstock, and I die cut the 3 pumpkins in different color of pink cardstock. And one of the main things we're going to be doing today is coloring our pumpkins. So while I was die cutting, I also die cut the outer frame from our our inverted scallop set to make the outer frame. And I also cut a piece of grass to the same length there. And then on my paper, I cut this down to 4 by 5 1/4. And that is also the measurement for this piece right here. All right, so we're going to set these aside for now, and we're going to work on our pumpkins. All right, I'm going to get this piece of cardboard out just to kind of protect my surface while I color these. And you can see in my original here that for my pumpkins, I came in with some Copic markers to just put a little more character into my pumpkins rather than just leaving them flat. So I do have a handful of markers here that I'm going to be using. And for this pink pumpkin, I'm going to use the R34 and the RV000. And let me check just to make sure there's not another one that I'm using that I have forgotten. So I do have my Copic colors kind of put here on cards so that I can quickly see which number that I want to use. So I'm going to put those up there in front of me. And to start, I started with the darker one. And I'm going to just kind of outline following the curve in the die. There. And I'm just going to bring that up. And that's going to be the center of my pumpkin, or the center section. Now, just to make the outer edges match, I'm going to go ahead and use my darker one here to go around just like that, just so they have that same color as the intersection. All right, now I'm going to come in with this little bit lighter violet color. It's an RV00, just to add a little bit of shading in there. And basically, I'm just going to kind of outline the lines that I just put in, going along the edge. And the same blending that you would do if this was a stamped image. We're just doing it on a die cut instead. But you're following the same kind of rules or methods that you would use any other image. So I'm just providing my shadows. And all right, there we go. Easy peasy, right? That doesn't take any particular coloring skills. You're really just giving some dimension to your pumpkin. And now for my stem and the little vine coming off, I'm going to use a couple browns. I'm going to use E47 and E74 and E23. And I'm going to start with that lighter one. And just go ahead and color that up. Now, I think I've told y'all before, I'm a pretty simple colorer. You've been spoiled here on Whimsy with some absolute artists in coloring, but I'm not an artist. I can do the kind of coloring that crafters do, but this is how I go about doing it. And now I'm just going to add some shadow by putting some brown down here on the bottom. And for now, this one is complete. So I'm going to set this aside. We are going to do something else to it in just a moment. Now for these two little pumpkins, I'm going to use some different colors. So for this lighter one, let's see, what have I got here? Nope, not that one. I'm going to use, let's see, RV21 and RV23. Okay. And I think I'm going to use some RV10 if I have it. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so for my outer lines, in fact, I think I might go ahead and just do 21 and 10. That'll be enough. Now this pumpkin has two little humps right down here on the bottom. So I'm basically going to make some ovals following those lines. Okay. All right. And same thing, I'm going to do the outer edges. All right. And same thing, I'm going to come in with that lighter color and just provide myself some shadows. Oh, and you know what? I just remembered why I had that other color. My RV10 is pretty much out of ink. So let's see here. What's my other one that I wanted to use? I'm going to go with the RV11 to provide my shadows. It's not quite the perfect color for this, but it'll work. And for this, I'm just going to go around in the same way I did with the other and provide some shadow. All right. And this RV11, it's going to dry back just a little bit. It's darker than I wanted, but I remember now that my tin was out of juice and I've had to order some. I didn't have any on hand. Okay, and then I'm going to come back with my my E23 and just give myself a stem. And then I'm going to use my E29 here just to provide a little bit more depth down in there where it meets and do some flick marks coming up. Oops. There's my E23 again. I just blend that out a little bit. There we go. All right, so there's my second pumpkin. And now for my third pumpkin, I'm going to use the same colors that I did for my first one. Whoops. And this one, it pretty much is like the first one. I'm just going to make one oval there in the center and call that one done and go around the edges. Okay. See how simple it is really to add lines to your die cuts, but it really gives them more character on your card. And it's a fun thing to do. So in the same way, I'm just going to come back here and provide the shadow. And again, this one will dry back. It's going to look really wet on this dark cardstock, but when it dries, it'll just provide that shadow in there. All right, and now same thing. I'm going to come back with this darkest E29 and give myself a stem. All right, to get it all. All right, so there we are with our colored pumpkins, and to completely finish these off, I'm going to use some ink around the edges. So for the Be Mine, I'm going to use for this darkest pumpkin. The Pucker Up I'm going to use for this pumpkin, and then the It's a Girl is going to be for this pumpkin. So I'm going to start here with the Pucker Up, and we're just going to flick around the edges. And you'll see how much this just really adds to that pumpkin to give it this little bit of ink around the edges. So I like combining some markers and some inks to bring my die cuts to life. And then I'm just going to go really lightly along there just to get a little more shadow. All right. We'll do the same to our other two. All right. And then this lightest little pink. This one will be the hardest to see on camera because this is a very light color, but in person it does give you a nice shadow. Just give your pumpkin more dimension. All right. All right, so we're done with our pumpkins. We can set those aside. And now we're going to work on just a little bit of coloring for our little bears. And I'm going to use pretty much the same colors that I used on the pumpkins. So for the little trick-or-treating one, the little pumpkin here, I'm going to use the same colors, RV34 and RV11. And just quickly color that in. And I'll go over the whole part. And then just to make my edges a little bit darker so I have some shadow, I'm just going to add a second layer. There we go. And for the other one, I'm going to use the 21 and the 23. Going around all of my pumpkin here. And let's see, did I have... No, I'm going to do RV13 last on my pumpkin. So I started with the 21. Now I'm going to add the 23 out here on the edges. Come back with my 21 and fill in the parts. And now just to add a little more dimension, I'm going to trace the lines with the E13 because it is a tad darker. And there we go. We have our little pumpkins colored. So let's see. My lightest color for my little bears are the E00, then the E11, the E23, and the E13. So one of the bears, I'm going to use these three. And for the other bear, I'm going to use these three. So that the first one I do, the darkest color is going to be E13. So wherever I feel like my darkest color should be, I'm going to go ahead and add the E13. All right. My next color is going to be the E11. And I'll just come in like that. There we go. And the last color will be the E00, and it's gonna fill that in all around there. And then I like to come back with my first color and just add a little more depth over here. And again, with the second color, I'm gonna go over the whole thing. All right, see how easy that is? Now I'm gonna take the E00 away, and I'm gonna add my darkest color as E23, just so my bears don't look exactly the same. I'm going to do down here where the body is, I'm going to do that all in my darkest color because I'm going to assume there's shadow down in there. My next darkest color, and add and then come in with the lightest. So in the same way. Then to finish it out, I'm just going to come back with my second color and blend that out a little bit more. All right, so there we go. Now on these cute little Halloween bears, I wanted to let you know that they do come with the No Fuss masks. Now on today's project, I won't be using the masks, but I do have a project coming up soon where we will put these to use. Now this particular set does not have dies, so I did go ahead and fussy cut my little bears. The last thing that we'll need is just a circle die cut, and I believe this one's a 2-inch, but let me measure it just to make sure. Yes, that's a 2-inch circle, so I just used the circle dies to cut me a 2-inch circle. Whoops. Then with my Spirited Sayings, I'm going to use the Be Mine color to stamp Trink or Treat onto my 2-inch circles. So I've already done that in advance. And here we have our pieces to complete our card. Let me grab a card base. Oh, here it is. On my card base, I did go ahead and stamp Too Cute to Spook in the same Be Mine color on the inside. And now we're just going to construct our card. There we go. Is everyone getting ready for Halloween? Once you don't have children to kind of do the trick-or-treating thing, we find it very fun to get together with friends and sit out on the front porch and hand out candy. And that has kind of been our tradition the last several years since our kids grew up and moved out of the house. So our neighborhood doesn't really get a lot of trick-or-treaters. We're kind of out in the country. So we go to a friend's house and we all take a different soup and we eat together, and then we all take our own candy. And the kids just love coming to that house because there's like 5 or 6 different families sitting on the front porch and everybody has their own candy. So the kids get quite a haul of goodies when they come to my friend's house. And that's what we'll be doing for Halloween again this year. It's something we look forward to. I am going to use the tiny little strips, these real narrow strips, to add my frame. But before I do that, I want to cut my grass to the right size. So I'm just going to, it would have been easier if I had glued my grass down before I started, and then I could have just turned it over, but this will work just the same. I'm just going to go ahead. Oh, another thing you can do is to lay it on and glue it here and then cut off the ends. So let's do it that way. Whoops. So I'm just going to run a strip of glue on the back side of the bottom. And add my grass right in there. Okay. And now I can just take my scissors and cut off the end. Okay. Now I'm going to use my foam And just run this around the edges because I do want my frame popped up. So I have a saying in my craft room that I use often, and that is no problems, just solutions. So if something, you know, I forget to do it here or there, I just find another way, or I revamp on the fly, and that works fine for me. I never let crafting be a source of stress. I think it's very important that crafting should be for fun. So here at Carrie Lee Creations, crafting is for the fun of it. And that's just the way that I do things. So here we go. We're going to put this down in. We might have to use a bit more of that foam. And I know that I'm going to be tucking pumpkins under there, so I don't want to add my foam too high up because I know at least my biggest pumpkin I'm going to tuck behind there. So I want to have room to do that. All right, now let's see if I can get this on there straight. Nope. Try again. Hold on, we're going to move it up just a little bit. I hope I cut that to the right size. Maybe I cut it too big. I don't know. We're going to go ahead and not worry about that, but I think maybe I didn't cut my paper quite the right size, so we're getting some overflow. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, this biggest pumpkin, I'm going to tuck right down underneath, and it's going to be glued directly onto the back. So I would love to know, do you send Halloween cards? I just love making Halloween cards. They're so fun. It's such a fun holiday to dress up and be silly and just, I just love it. You know, some people get all caught up in the origins and stuff like this. I'm not concerned about that. I just think it's fun, all the spooky and the costumes and just the good times with family and friends. That's what it's all about for us. So now I'm just going to add these other two pumpkins right over here. And I'm adding a little bit of foam so that they're lifted up. There we go. And I am going to overlap them. There we go. The same for my trick or treat. I'm going to put some foam right over here on this side so that it's mostly going to rest on my frame, which is already foamed, but for this one side that will stick out, I want to make sure that it's got something underneath it. And for my two little bears here, I'm going to add some foam to their heads. There we go. All right, for our final thing. Now, I thought this would have been a fun card. We could have added some acetate to it and made this a shaker card. Both of my granddaughters are still pretty young, and I was afraid they might get that shaker taken apart. So I wanted to make it so that they could carry it around with them and not have to worry about getting beads. One of my granddaughters is only 7 months old, so I didn't want there to be any kind of choking hazard. So that is why I did not make them a shaker. But that would certainly be an option. And there we go. All right, for my final thing, I always like to look at my projects and say, what's one more thing? And for this one, I did take my glue bottle and I went very lightly around the entire circle of my sentiment. And I'm just going to add a little bit of sparkle and shine to my sentiment by putting that glue around there. And now I'll use just a little bit of my glitter. It looks like I've got my glitter all dumped out, so use a little bit of this one. Sprinkle that glitter on. Go. gonna use my paintbrush here just to get that excess glitter off of the black part. There we go. And for the very final thing, I wanted to add some little dewdrops onto my pumpkin. So I took some of these sweet little clear beads that come from This Calls for Confetti. And we're going to add just a few of those right here on our largest pumpkin. And I'm just going to put two close together and then one a little further away. Get my jewel picking up tool from Whimsy Stamps. And we're going to add just some little dewdrops here. Let's see. And this medium size. There we go. And there's my spooky favorite using the fun pumpkins. Did you hear me? I said pun. The fun pumpkins. All right. And the little berry trick-or-treaters. So there's my two cards. All right, I'm just going to switch my camera back. Thank you so much for joining me for this fun hop. If you have not already followed the hop, if I'm your last stop, then thanks so much for joining us. There is a $50 gift card that can be won if you go through the whole hop and leave your comments. And if I'm the first or in the middle, then do hop on to the next. Down in the description will be the other sites that you can go to in this hop. So thanks again for joining me, and I look forward to crafting with you again soon. Bye-bye.